Righto, on our last trip we broke the remote lock for our awning locking mechanism, and so we've bought a new one. Ours is a Carefree awning because it's a Jayco van, so I bought a new one to replace it, and so we're going to go through that now. So there's a couple of things that you need to consider when you're going to replace this, and we'll go through that now. Rightio, before we pull it out, get yourself something, say, sort of mid hip area, chest area, something that you can prop in the back of that arm, and also a chair, because what you're going to do is you're going to pull that. You have to pull the awning apart. You have to pull the top off that awning off the actual arm, separate them. And of course both of them are going to want to drop on the ground, so you want the chair to hold the roller, and you want the broom. I'll show you what to do with the broom when we get to that bit. Alright, so this is the locking mechanism on a Carefree awning, rear awning arm, and you've got this plastic handle here that slides up and down. Anyone who's got one will know exactly what that is. Inside the back of the awning arm itself is a piece of plastic, flexible plastic wire looking stuff that's attached to this end, and up there attached to that end there, and it just slides up and down and opens that little arm up there and unlocks the awning, so you can roll it out, and then locks it again, or opens it up, sorry, so it'll roll in on its own. And there's a couple of key issues that you need to take into account if you're going to replace this thing, if you've snapped it, like what we've done, because those locking mechanisms do from time to time get a little bit crusty to open up, and to pull on, they get a little bit stiff, and so you're putting a little bit of pressure on that plastic mechanism, and they can break. First thing, if you've got one of these stainless steel clotheslines, when you roll the awning out, take that off before you do anything else. So what we'll do now is we'll roll the awning out, and then we'll start pulling it apart, and I'll tell you what to do and what to look out for when you're repairing it. All right, so the awning's now rolled out, and it's locked out. It's in the open position. This part of it is absolutely vital. That little handle has to stay in that open position. If you accidentally flick it back to the closed position and you take this end off, that thing is going to spin around and probably rip all your fingers off. So it's vital that you watch that piece all the time. Anyway, so here's your unlock handle, your remote handle. There's a piece of plastic inside that tube that slides up and down, and normally attached to the end of it is this thing. That's normally sitting in there. It travels inside the tube there itself as well, and this piece of plastic here normally pulls it up and down and opens that. So you don't need this thing, it's not critical. You can do that with a piece of wire, which is I generally use, or you can use the wire that you use to pull the awning out with, just to flick that backwards and forwards. So that part of it's vital. There's one screw that's attaching this section here to the outer arm, and so you've got to take the screw out of that. So that's it there. So I've already loosened it off. So we'll take that out. All right. Now this is going to be the tricky part, in as much as this is the bit that's going to bite you, if anything's going to bite you. Now the reason you have the chair here is because when you take this roller off, it's going to want to drop to the ground, so you want to just sit it on top of something, which in my case is a chair. And in relation to the broom handle or whatever, keep this inner arm unlocked, slide it up here somewhere, grab the broom and shove it in there and lie it in there. So So that arm there will slide back down, hit the broom and stay there, and then lock the handle off behind here. So what all that'll in effect will do is when you disconnect this, that's only going to drop, maybe an inch or so, because this can no longer slide that way, so it can't fall down. So then we've got very, very little movement here. The chair will hold the roller or the this part of the awning, the barrel, and the broom handle will stop that from sliding down. So that'll basically stay in the same position. That'll roughly stay in the same position, and it gives you enough frigging around to work with. And so then what we'll do is we'll take this remote out now, so that'll slide out up to the bottom. Chuck that. Just one interesting thing that I discovered when I bought when it broke, and you'll see on here there's two parts of that that piece of plastic there that slide inside this recess in here, and by design it's not attached all the way. By design it's only attached to the small part at the bottom, and you would call that part at the top, or sorry, the other way around, is the handle part of it. So this part at the top is only attached in a small area, and this is just a guide. So all of the stress is on that small join there. And if you look at the top part of it, it's even worse. The area that is held on, the area that piece of plastic is held on would be lucky if it's about 6 or 7 mil, and then the top part of it here, which I've snapped off to get it out, is about the same. So this whole area in the middle, which there is absolutely no rhyme or reason as to why that doesn't run all the way through, so that just makes it weak by design. I wouldn't say it's a bad design. Economically, it's an absolutely rip snorter of a design, because it's going to ensure that there's going to be a shit ton of people that are going to snap that tiny bit off there, and then have to go and spend anywhere from $30 up to $50 to buy another piece of plastic to shove in there. So yeah, it's pretty average, and I don't know whether this is just, I don't know, now that I'm looking for fault, inside the box that this thing comes through, they've fed one end of it through the other end inside a huge box. So bearing in mind that there's only a very, very small part of that that's actually attached, there's a reasonable chance that you'll snap that bloody thing off just taking it out of the box. Anyway, that's for contemplation. And anyway, so I'll take the end off here. So it's a matter of just sliding off this part here in that direction, hold on to this, well, I'll have to lift this up a little bit, and then you'll be able to pull it apart, sit the barrel on top of the chair. It should sit there fine, and this thing will swing in the air while we feed this new remote lock in. So again, make sure that you've taken your clothesline off if you've got one, because that's just going to complicate issues. Double check, triple check to make sure that that is in the open position, that arm there, because the last thing you want is to take this end off, or try and get that end off. When that's on the closed position, it's just going to start spinning around and probably rip your fingers off. So anyway, so that's now on the lock position. Keep your eyes on it, make sure nothing can bump it or move it or whatever. And there we go. So now that'll sit on the chair, and hopefully you can see the end of that. So we'll grab the new one. Take that out of there. There's a bit of the broken one. Now that's the length. I'll grab the broken one. So that's it there. That's as much as that's a guide at the top end, and at the bottom end, that's how much of that plastic wire is attached. So it's designed to break quite clearly. There's no reason why that can't go right through the entire length of that there and fill that entire section up, which would make it significantly stronger. Anyway, so we'll shove that in the hole. Probably wouldn't hurt to put a bit of dry lube in there. I don't actually have any. Don't use wet lube for Christ's sake, but put a bit of dry lube in there. It'll make life a little bit easier when you're opening and closing it. In fact, what I'll do is I'll just pause the video and I'll just go and rub a bit of soap onto it. Alright, a bit of soap rubbed down there. That's heaps better. Now, once you get to this part here, once the thing's kind of level at the top, you want to then lift this up and feed. I don't know whether you can see that from that side, but you want to try and feed with as little interference as possible that brake mechanism there into that part there. Keep your hand around there and try to keep it open, in the open position, and try to, with as little fanfare as possible and as simply as possible without putting any stress onto anything. Take your time, do it very slowly, feed that, watching that mechanism all the time, then feeding that through, lifting it up. Just take your time, very, very slowly, feed that back in. And there, because if you accidentally bump that thing there, that thing's just going to start spinning around, and that's the big problem. And that's what's going to rip your fingers off. So it's working fine, and that's pretty much done. So you can take your broom handle out, you don't need that anymore. Put the screw back in there, and you'll be done, pretty much done. I'll whack that back in the hole. That's it. Undo your inner arm, that back, slide back to where it was, kick your chair out if you like, and now you can put your clothesline back on, and you're done. And that's it. Finished. Easy.